is dead.
All right. Part 1. We just saw it. Don't count on it, Batman. This this introduction for Aquaman, it's very important in terms of how it frames the heroes in this movie. The way Zack Snyder sets Aquaman up as a character, and you see, like, physically, he's positioned at the right hand of the village elder leader that we're seeing, right? Mm-hmm. So you see Aquaman as someone who, like, serves the people. You know what I mean? Like, he is there as someone who helps everyone, not as, like, a Dominion ruler, which is very much in line with his character. Kind of like a Game of Thrones, like, he doesn't want the throne. And you see that right from his first shot.
It's almost like he's not meant to be king, you know?
At the door, you see someone that you know, and they ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
I'm gonna actually talk about this movie because I can already see the rage building. No, but, like, I do mean that's partly legitimately. He is like, the way that he sets himself up is that of a subordinate, someone who works like he's almost like a freelance agent, you know? He doesn't, like, serve anyone really, but he also isn't above anyone else. He sees himself as, like, assisting these people who require his assistance, and there's he is at the behest of people who are in need of him, but never, like, above them.
And it really contrasts the nature of Superman. Mm-hmm. And not in Superman's beliefs or, like, what he wanted to do, but in the way that every action that he did was broadcast on a huge level, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it was debated and, like, heatedly discussed. Like, is this, some angel or demon? You know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas Aquaman is doing deeds that no one sees, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. To where he doesn't face that. And his deeds elicit such a different reaction than Superman's, right? Yeah. You know, not stopping the building coming down in Mexico in Batman versus Superman, right? Mm-hmm. Is very public. The space shuttle in Batman versus Superman, public. Metropolis is a public incident. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas Aquaman, this is, like, somewhere, and I think this is a great addition that we don't often see in superhero movies on an international scale, right? Mm-hmm. Even this is something that Zack has always done. Whereas Man of Steel is across the globe. We're seeing him help that woman in Canada. We're seeing him help people in the Atlantic with the oil rig, right? Mm-hmm. And in Justice League, we see Aquaman helping people in Iceland. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Superman in Mexico, like I mentioned earlier. It is so much broader than other superhero movies where it's local. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And one thing that I appreciate is that, like, Aquaman, there are, like, he builds, like, a philosophy around, like, being an isolationist, you know? He helps people, but he'll never help anyone that'll reveal him to, like, the world, right? So, like, in Batman vs. Superman, there is a flood during the montage where we see, like, Superman doing good deeds. There's a flood that's flooding and, like, an entire village, and, like, there are people who are sitting on top of rooftops, like, you know, in need of help. Aquaman could have been there. Aquaman could have gone there and potentially saved lives and helped those people, but that would have put him on the map, and he's not willing to do that because, like, he's helping people because that's probably part of his nature. You know, he wants to be good and use his power, but he doesn't want essentially what what Pa Kent knew would be inevitable for his son. You know, he doesn't want to live that life, and he doesn't feel a connection to both his, like, Atlantean history and his human history.
And what you're discussing is exactly where I wanted to go, which is not only does he want to be revealed in a Pa Kent sort of way, it's more so that he doesn't want the accolades. He doesn't want to go to Iceland, help all these people, and then be crowned king. You know what I mean? Ruler. And you can see this, and I love this moment. The full song of the Icelandic village singing their praise and thanks to Aquaman. Mm-hmm. He fucking bolts. You know what I mean? He's gone.
Yeah.
But whereas Aquaman don't want to hear that praise, we hear it, and we see the weight of the people he saved. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's not something you often see in superhero movies. Is one, people saving people, and two, the reaction to being saved. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's kind of what sets Aquaman apart from both from like Superman, but like all of the other characters. He, in all honesty, he's very similar to Batman in a sense, where like Batman, a lot of what made him like, he was almost like a myth. You
Yeah.
know, some people had never even seen him. He was like some people didn't believe he existed, right? Like in Batman vs Superman, there was a cop that like it was the first time he'd ever seen the Batman at like anything ever. He lives in the shadows, but the difference is where Aquaman, like it's not just that he's a myth; it's that as many people as he can keep from knowing he exists, like on a grander scale, not just like on an individual level with like this Icelandic village in particular, the better. Whereas Batman, he is a myth, but also like a legend in Gotham to keep people from committing crime, to keep people in line, and to know that like he will be there to stop you and
It's that
brand you.
it's that iconic moment from the Dark Knight trilogy, when the Dark Knight is starting, and there's someone about to make like a drug deal, and he's like, you know what, I'm going home, and you're like, come on, you have more chances of winning the lottery ball than you have in running into Batman, but it's the chance.
Yeah.
And what I want to say lastly on this Aquaman part is the fact that both, not so much Aquaman in this moment, but Batman definitely in this moment, is now coming out of that. That sort of like, I don't want to be seen is gone. Batman is now taking up the mantle of Superman, where he is going out and he's using, you know, his bat symbol and then the iconography of Superman to inspire and get others out into the light. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a lot of people have been keeping to themselves, like Batman, keeping themselves divided. And now Batman, through the inspiration of Superman, is now trying to bring everybody out of the darkness into the light. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think it's important to note that he's not doing it as Batman, he's doing it as Bruce Wayne. You know, he is no longer just like the monster that he was before. Now he's the man.
Yeah, and that's something that Alfred was trying to tell him in Batman versus Superman, where he was like, you don't need to brand people. When you branded that guy, you got nothing because he was too like low level. But you got that information of KG Beast from being Bruce Wayne at the Fight Club. Mm-hmm. And he gets more information from Lex as he's invited to Lex Luthor's party. You know what I mean? And moving on, we get to Lois. This was a fantastic scene with a great...
Ooh, yeah.
Zack Snyder, even more so than Tarantino, is a master at the needle drop. When you look at like Watchmen, and even the way he uses score, this song that plays as Lois like goes to mourn Superman, you know what I mean? It like the lyrics, they said our gods would outlive us. You know what I mean? That's just something you don't imagine, right? When you put all your faith into someone like Superman, the idea of him dying before you immortal is impossible.
Yeah.
And this song, like songs we'll discuss later, fits so well in this moment. It's like it was written for this, but it wasn't 10 years prior. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's definitely true. But the other great thing about this moment is showing you how the world, like, we saw very, very sparse amounts of this from Suicide Squad, but we didn't really get to relish in it the way that we do here.
Yeah.
So, in Suicide Squad, you had, like, T-shirts and like, and, like...
Which is elements I like of that movie.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
But, like, the fact that we get to see, like, a bridge in Metropolis, like, completely encompassed...
No, that's London.
Is that London?
That's London.
All right, well, my bad.
That's a transition to when Wonder Woman is in London. And
Okay.
it's showing how Superman meant to the world because of his international deeds.
Yeah. Okay. Well, like, it's all of these elements that kind of, like, bring home the fact that, like, Superman is... His like, life is felt on a more than just, you know, Lois. It's the world mourns. But that's kind of, like, interesting because Lois is the only one who truly understands what that mourning meant, right? Other than his mother, right?
Yeah.
It's like Lois mourns for Superman, but
And
also
Clark.
for Clark Kent. And the world simply mourns for the loss of Superman.
And this movie probably had its strongest theme is that of loss, grief, and like mourning. You know what I mean? And that process is something that when I debate WandaVision stands on Twitter, they'll be like, but look, Stuart, it has this cycle of grief, like denial and anger and all this. It has all these moments. And
then revenge right at the end.
Yeah.
So perfect.
But this movie actually does these themes to like fruition. You know what I mean? It's not just like surface level. You know what I mean? Yeah. And part of this is done by, as I described when we've analyzed Game of Thrones, which is you'll have someone at one stage of grief and another at another stage, right? Mm-hmm. You have Lois, and this is a top tier cinema transition of Lois Lane grieving Superman, and then you cut to Wonder Woman emerging into the world. This is like her first ever since World War One, because even in '84 she was still keeping her identity a secret. Mm-hmm. It is in this moment that she is stepping out into the world, London, to like emerge as a new beacon. Because Superman is now gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And that transition between Lois at one stage of grief and her coming out on the other side, that is beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I think that I'm a big Wonder Woman fan. I really like, especially like this DC Wonder Woman from the DCEU. So like seeing her have like something akin to the first scene that she saved someone in '84, like, but with a totally different tone. So like in '84 you have like the lasso is bright, the colors are light, and like you have all like a totally different feel. And there's even like silly shots like someone gasping, like you zoom in on their face and they're like, oh, as like they get lassoed, like little things like that are goofy and fun. But then you contrast that with like this moment, which it still maintains the life that is Diana.
Yeah.
That positivity, that cheer.
You can be anyone.
Yeah, exactly. But it has it from like a Zack Snyder lens.
Yeah, and here's where I have a real big like statement to make on this scene. This scene of Wonder Woman stopping what is essentially a mass shooting. You know what I mean? The way they barge into a building and they're just fucking mowing down people. Mm-hmm. This is the first modern superhero scene. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because so much with superhero culture is recycled. You know what I mean? We constantly have, like, let's say this is Superman Returns. You have the recycled imagery of, like, stopping a plane from crashing, right? Or, like, lifting up a car, those sort of things. But it's in this movie, 2021, or the movie takes place in 2015, it is that of like a shooting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And no other superhero movie has gone to this place. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it puts a superhero, the idea of all these superhero stories, because essentially they're always like trying to like subvert and put a new spin on existing stuff. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The doomsday device, the bomb. You know what I mean?
Right.
A bomb, a bomb, a bomb, a bomb. There's always a bomb. Or a sky beam in superhero movies. Mm-hmm. But putting Wonder Woman in a mass shooting scenario, that's insane. That's bold. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's... What's kind of interesting is, like, the idea of, like, this sect existing in this world. Like, what does that mean? I wonder what has caused that. And I wonder how that can be expanded upon on later films, if at all.
Are you talking about, like, this reactionary terrorist group?
Exactly.
Okay, so, yeah, that's what I the purpose of that reactionary terrorist group, through my analysis, is that it is a parallel of the entropy nature of Darkseid, right? Their goal is to just go around and like resetting society back to the Dark Age, which is very similar to Darkseid going around to planets, resetting it back to like its primal apocalypse nature. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think it is. It is a very like, it is almost like if you were going to adapt Darkseid into a Joaquin Phoenix grounded Joker movie, it would be this guy.
Yeah. I see that.
And that's where it works.
Mm-hmm. It kind of sets up the idea of what like it's like the kindergarten version of what Darkseid plans to do to the universe, right?
Right, yeah.
And that's it, like thematically it connects them pretty like perfectly. Mm-hmm. And like it's the same way that like, you have like a head get chopped off in the first episode of Game of Thrones, and then you have one as the finale. You know, it's like you set up this idea and then you pay it off.
Yeah.
With like Darkseid's plan.
And more so, the biggest theme in this movie is unity, right? And because we now have seen Steppenwolf. We've seen Steppenwolf, and we see him as a true fucking conqueror. You know what I mean? And what I love is this movie shows the difference between uniting those under conquering and uniting those under unity. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's powerful. That's what makes the villain Steppenwolf so fucking strong in this movie. But before we move on from the Wonder Woman section, is the score. Kind of like I highlighted with that like Tom Holkenborg like wailing of humanity for Superman, right?
Yeah.
This part's score highlight is going to be Wonder Woman's ancient lamentations, you know what I mean? And how Wonder Woman's scene with the ancient lamentations transitions to the Amazonians. It gives like, you still have that like iconic Wonder Woman like riff, right?
Yeah.
But now you have this extension of that, which is there's one really great line from Star Wars Episode 9, and it's that of every Jedi for 1,000 generations live in you. And that idea of all the Jedi training that has come to this moment is you, Rey. You know what I mean? A movie written by the same guy who wrote this one, Chris Terrio, before being chopped to oblivion, Episode 9.
Right, yeah.
So you still have like moments of that with the writing. But I feel that it is still very accurate with Wonder Woman. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
where
for
it's
sure.
like every generation of Amazonians is in her through the training and the culture and the society. You know what I mean?
I think that this movie is tapping into one thing I appreciate about all these movies is that like we see a lot about Amazonian culture, and we see how it like plays into who Diana is and how she sees herself. We saw this a lot in '84. We saw this a lot in the first Wonder Woman, and we're seeing it now like told to us musically. You know, it's a way to connect them in a way, since like she was separated from Amazon and is unable to like, you know, be a part of that culture anymore. It's like a way of connecting them back, because this movie is going to be the closest she's ever been to coming back home.
Yeah.
And I think that's what really like makes it work. And especially when you consider that like you have this Amazonian like lamentations, and then that is like alongside Diana's very distinct like rift.
Yeah.
The combining these two things together really forms who Diana is.
But I gotta say this for the people in the back. Fuck Thanos, all right? Because the way they introduce Thanos, I don't know his power level. But through this scene of Wonder Woman, the way she fucking just blows through those dudes with the guns, you know what I mean? You see how powerful Diana is, right?
Yeah.
And Diana is a pretty base level of what an Amazonian is capable of. I know she's stronger because of the god.
I don't know if I'd say she's a base level. I think she's significantly stronger.
But an Amazonian fighting those dudes, you would see that same sort of force. And what I'm saying is, by seeing Wonder Woman in this fight scene and immediately transitioning to Steppenwolf blowing through Amazonians,
Yeah.
you see that Steppenwolf is hundreds of times stronger than Diana, than the Amazonians. You know what I mean? And that is a perfect, like, power level establishment. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's what I mean. And you don't get that with Thanos. I don't know how powerful he is, because in one moment, he can knock Hulk into another fucking galaxy. And then in the next part of the movie, he struggles with Spider-Man. And then in the next part of that movie, he blows through Captain America and you know what I mean? Like Vision, all that sort of shit. So like, where is his power? What is his scale?
Okay, if my humble opinion is that Infinity War tackles this idea of where Thanos is in terms of power significantly better than Endgame. I think this criticism is far more true for Endgame than it is for Infinity War.
Not talking about Endgame, but in Infinity War, which is what I'm talking about, when you're introduced, because like, every other movie he's sitting in a chair. This is the first time you see him up. And what I'm saying is seeing him punch someone as powerful as Hulk into another galaxy without even a sweat, and then struggling later with more power from the Infinity Stones with the ones on Titan.
Well, the point of what goes on on Titan is that like this is like an orchestrated attack. The reason that he was able to knock out Hulk is because the power of Thanos isn't simply that he has physical might, but he is intelligent and he knows how to knock down someone who is running at you with simply brute force. Hulk fails because Hulk is simply just like a train running straight at you. But if you know how to move around a train, that train isn't imposing anymore. But on Titan, he's fighting people who have devised a plan to try to bring him down. Like they bring in elements, they combine their powers, they bring it all together to form like a united front to try to bring him down. And it almost works.
But in terms of pace, I feel like I am seeing the way Steppenwolf is introduced, I feel a more stronger presence of threat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I fear the stones more than I fear Thanos. You know what I mean? So, I'm not fearing the mother boxes. I'm actually fearing his, brute force of throwing horses and launching. You know what I mean?
I think a cool like establisher, and I know why Infinity War didn't go with this route, but it could have been like a great way of establishing Thanos, is to watch him bring down,
the purple stone.
Yeah,
right.
Bring down bring down an entire fucking like planet of defenses.
Yeah.
And like fight on that planet and bring it down.
Yeah.
And take the stone for himself.
Or taking the Asgardians.
Yeah,
because
that's
the thing is, if you show me him taking down Asgardians, well, then it's like the Amazonians. I know what he's capable of. He's better and more stronger than 1,000 or 100 Asgardians. You know what I mean? And that's what I see with Wonder Woman, is him able to just blow through the entire fucking island. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He brings down some of like the greatest warriors that our planet knows. Seem almost single-handedly and seemingly without breaking a sweat. Like, he takes arrows to the chest. And the great thing is, it's not just like he's an immovable object moving and he actually stumbles and falls, but never to a point that feels like he's ever in threat, merely like a hindrance.
Always overcoming it.
Yes.
He has an entire tomb trapped down on him. He's taken down by like 10 people and he's still grabbing over them. You know what I mean? He's shot with 1,000 arrows and boom, it's just showing that train going along, and you're not able to stop him. You're able to hinder him, much like Superman later. You know what I mean? But it's not a full stop.
Yeah. They're no match for him.
That's right. And you see that, so you're like, when you see the Amazonians, when we go into part 2, you're gonna be like, how the fuck is Diana gonna stop this, let alone Batman? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And one thing about, to touch on the Amazonians on what we can, I really appreciate, this harkens back to 300. I really appreciate the way that Zack Snyder brings a culture based on combat, a culture that like has its roots tied to being warriors.
Yeah.
Like he really brings it to life. And I really feel that like what he learned from bringing to life 300 is what goes into making the Amazonians.
Yeah, I mean, masterclass. 300 is a masterclass of how to take something so violent, so brutish, so like barbaric, and making you see it as a working society, right? And you see that in Wonder Woman, right? I mean, a director of lesser capability would fumble with the Amazonians, because if you show them this violent, then maybe you don't empathize with them as much.
Yeah,
but Snyder does. And I think that's a good spot, because, I mean, this is the Amazonian part, and then we continue in part 2.
This world will fall.